Vanessa. I want a divorce. I see. No matter the reason, I can't live with someone who has been unfaithful. Let's get divorced right away. I printed out the divorce papers on the computer and presented them to David. Sign it now. I will sign it after, and we can submit it immediately. I'm sorry for hurting you. Thank you for understanding. We will be happy. As David and Alex were about to leave, Alex approached me and whispered in my ear. It's going to be a luxurious life for me from now on. Sorry for stealing David from you. After saying that, Alex showed a triumphant expression and left arm in arm with David. After all the divorce filing process was done, Alex stretched and spoke to me. Finally, it's over. Well, I guess this was necessary for me to be happy with David. Vanessa, good luck living a frugal life. With a triumphant look, Alex laughed condescendingly at me. I didn't respond. David looked puzzled, but then joined the conversation. Why does it turn into a conversation about Vanessa becoming poor for divorcing me? Huh? Because you're a high earner, David. Since Vanessa is a housewife, she'll lose her income, right? Hearing Alex's words, David burst out laughing. What are you talking about? We are the ones who will be living the poor life. My name is Vanessa. I'm a working housewife. My job is very busy, and I spend a lot of time away from home. David, my husband, supports me by taking care of all the household chores. He's essentially a full-time house husband. We've only been married for 3 months. Despite my absence from home, David never complains and always takes care of me when I'm tired from work. I truly appreciate him. We had a harmonious marriage. But I never thought that the arrival of a certain person would change everything. One day, when I got home, David spoke to me. Can I invite an old friend of mine over sometime? That's fine, but it's unusual for you to invite someone over. I met up with him after a long time recently. We had a great time and agreed to meet again. I want to introduce him to you. David smiled as he explained the situation, and I couldn't help but smile too. That's great, thank you. I should be able to take the next weekend off. So please ask him about his schedule? Okay, thanks, Vanessa. With a happy face, David immediately started sending a message on his phone. I've hardly ever seen David angry or in a bad mood. I love his kind and honest nature and carefree smile. David's old friend is named Alex. He's free next weekend, so he's coming over. David holds him in high regard. He must be a wonderful person. I was also looking forward to meeting Alex. The next weekend, Alex visited our home. David was busy cooking various dishes since the morning to entertain his childhood friend. His skills in house chores are quite impressive, especially his cooking. The delicious-looking dishes were lined up on the table. Alex would surely be pleased. Ah. Alex is nearby. I'll go pick him up. With that, David left the house to welcome Alex. Our home is in a high-rise apartment with a concierge always stationed at the entrance. First-time visitors often get confused, so we make it a point to go out and welcome our guests. I wondered what he would be like. As I waited eagerly for her arrival, I heard the door opening. Come in, please. Hello. Hearing the conversation, I was puzzled. The voice sounded high for a man. When Alex entered the living room, I was surprised. Wow, what a room. It's so luxurious. There stood a woman, looking around the room curiously. David. This person. Let me introduce you. This is my childhood friend, Alex. Alex, this is my wife, Vanessa. Hello, nice to meet you, Alex here.
Ah,
Hello, nice to meet you. I hurriedly returned the greeting, assuming from David's childhood friend and the androgynous name Alex. I thought a man was coming. David could have mentioned she was a woman. While slightly uneasy, David and I entertained Alex. As we moved to the dining table for dinner, Alex naturally sat next to David. Normally, wouldn't David and I sit next to each other? I thought, but David seemed unconcerned. It wasn't a formal occasion. And so I didn't make any particular comment as Alex deliberately moved her chair closer to David as she sits next to him. This house is really amazing. The furniture is luxurious too, it's really nice. Right? We can live like this thanks to Vanessa. Really? A couple supporting each other, huh? Alex gazed up at David, looking into his face without ever glancing at me. I just watched the two of them talk. Watching Alex touch David occasionally while they talked cheerfully, I felt uncomfortable. David seemed to not mind. But it was easy to imagine that Alex did not think of David as just an old friend. Remaining silent to avoid ruining the mood, David suddenly turned to me and said, "She's fun, right?" He truly believed that, not as a taunt. So, I responded with a forced smile.
yeah.
Surely, David did not realize how I felt. He must think I'm genuinely enjoying myself. Then, Alex, who had never spoken to me directly before, turned to me and said, "I'm really having fun. Can I come over again?" Her smile did not reach her eyes. Seeing my vague response, David beamed and said, "I'm glad you two are getting along." After that, Alex started visiting our house several times a week. At first, she came on weekends when I was home. But gradually her visits became more frequent, even during my working hours. Today, as I returned home, I heard chuckles coming from the living room. I sighed and entered the living room. There, David and Alex were sitting together on the sofa, laughing joyfully. Alex was intertwined with David's arm. Even when she noticed my return, she made no move to let go. Already tired, this sight only drained me further. David greeted me with a smile, "Welcome back, Vanessa." Without addressing me, Alex simply said, "I'll be leaving then," and left the house. Alex was here again? Hasn't she been coming over too much lately? I had to ask as it was draining me. While preparing dinner, David replied,
Yeah.
"She has. But Alex recently got divorced and moved back in with her parents. I think she's feeling lonely because everyone around her is busy with work or their own families. I feel sorry for her. But I honestly don't feel good about you two meeting when I'm not around. She is too close to you, which makes me feel uneasy. I wish you would limit it a bit." I believe David has no ill intentions. He genuinely wants to help a friend in need. However, I couldn't help but dislike how Alex would touch David casually in front of me and make herself at home during the day. David listened to my concerns, apologized, and agreed to reduce the frequency of their meetings. All I could do was trust David's word. However, Alex still kept coming to our house. Although she targeted times when I was at work, and I never saw her face to face, I knew of her visits. She deliberately left her stuff behind for me to notice. It was obviously a provocation. Despite fewer visits, she was still coming weekly, so I voiced my concerns to David again. David confessed, "I did tell her clearly. But every time, she says, 'Okay,' and then starts crying at the entrance, saying how hard and sad she feels, and I can't bring myself to send her away." I couldn't blame David further and just asked him to keep urging her to reduce her visits. He apologized each time, but the situation did not improve. A month passed since Alex's first visit. She continued to visit our house, and I was mentally exhausted. I wanted to stop her visits somehow. With that determination, I headed to a place I normally wouldn't go alone, David's parents' home. Perhaps there might be some interaction between the families since they were childhood friends. I thought I might find a solution there. I reluctantly rang the doorbell at my in-laws' home. I usually avoid this place for a reason. Oh, Vanessa. Are you alone? It's been a while, Mother. My mother-in-law, seeing me alone, opened the door with an evident look of displeasure. She is the reason I am disliked. What brings you here all of a sudden? I haven't been able to visit for a while, so I thought I'd stop by to say hello. I'm not pleased to see you. If David were with you, maybe I could tolerate it, but your visit alone is a waste of my time. It's almost refreshing to be spoken to so harshly face to face. Responding poorly would only add fuel to the fire. The best strategy was to smile politely and let it slide. You're not a charming daughter-in-law at all. If only someone like Alex was my daughter-in-law, we could have built a good relationship. I was surprised to hear Alex's name come up. It was fortunate that the topic came from her, otherwise it might have seemed suspicious if I brought it up. My mother-in-law continued without minding my presence. David and Alex have always been close. She used to say she would marry David. And now he's married to a woman who can barely manage household duties. And doesn't care for her home. I'm truly disappointed. I'm sorry, I haven't lived up to expectations. Rather than making excuses, I apologized. Yet, my mother-in-law continued to grumble about me, repeatedly saying, Alex would have been a better wife. If David and Alex were to marry, my mother-in-law would undoubtedly be overjoyed. With that thought, I absently listened to her nagging. 2 months since Alex's first visit was about to pass. Her visits continued. I became numb to seeing the forgotten items of hers. Vanessa, there's something important I need to talk about. David, who is usually smiling, approached me with a serious expression that day. The unusual seriousness in his demeanor made me tense.
Yeah.
What is it? Are you free this weekend? I'd like to have a serious talk. That's fine, but does it have to wait until the weekend?
Yeah.
The weekend would be better. With that, David left the living room. What could this important talk be about? We seem to be fine when it's just the two of us. Could it be about Alex? I felt uneasy. Part of me wanted to get it over with quickly. And another part didn't want the weekend to come, a mix of feelings. When the weekend arrived, my suspicions seemed to be confirmed. Alex was there, looking unsurprised to be involved in the discussion. David was the first to speak. Vanessa. I want us to get a divorce. I somewhat anticipated this. I feared our marriage might be falling apart. Yet, I had hoped he would choose me in the end. To think that just one person could end our marriage so easily. Not even half a year into it, felt like a blow to the head. I like being needed. You being busy with work and leaving the household duties to me made me feel needed. I felt like I was supporting you. I thought so too. I believed it wasn't about gender roles, but about supporting each other in what we were good at and enjoyed. I thought we could do that together with David. But she can't do anything by herself. She can't live without my support. I need to be there for her. David really believed that. His desire to help someone in trouble and to be supportive was genuine. Whether it was right to abandon his wife to help someone else, however, was questionable. Glancing at Alex, she looked down but didn't seem remorseful. People who are sorry don't sit back comfortably and cross their legs on the sofa. She probably thought she finally managed to take David from me. David's obliviousness to these nuances might be considered a flaw. I suddenly felt foolish for being so serious about it. David's nature won't change. Even now, he might feel guilty towards me. But his actions were driven by a spirit of helping others. If I thought about it as him acting out of a desire to serve, it seemed unlikely that he would cut ties with Alex even if we didn't divorce. As long as I remained married to David, it seemed like this issue would haunt me forever. It felt quicker to just agree to the divorce now. I see. Regardless of the reason, I can't live with someone who has been unfaithful. Let's get divorced immediately. I printed out the divorce papers on my computer and thrust them in front of David. Sign it now. I'll sign it after and submit it immediately. David seemed taken aback by my swift action but took the papers and began to fill them out right there. I'm sorry for hurting you. But thank you for understanding. We will be happy. As he said this, David handed me the filled-out divorce papers. I took them without a word. As David and Alex were about to leave, Alex approached me and whispered, "We're going to live luxuriously from now on. Sorry for taking David from you." After saying that, Alex displayed a triumphant expression and left arm in arm with David. It seemed she was under a significant misunderstanding. But I no longer felt obligated to correct her. Regarding the divorce, I decided to hire a lawyer and arrange for a settlement. Since we had no children, the main discussion was about the division of property. Today, David, Alex, and I were supposed to meet at the lawyer's office to discuss. David declared he would agree to my terms. Alex objected discontentedly, but David silenced her, reminding her that it was only fair since they both hurt me. I demanded a fair division of property rights and sought compensation for their affair from both. Alex looked displeased at the mention of compensation, but her expression softened slightly when David said he would pay for both. After all the divorce procedures were completed, Alex stretched and addressed me. Finally, it's over. Well, I guess it was necessary for me to be happy with David. Vanessa, good luck living a frugal life. Alex laughed condescendingly at me. I didn't respond. David looked puzzled, but then joined the conversation. What are you talking about? Frugal life? What does that mean? Well, because she's divorcing you, right? Now she'll have to live a poor life. It's sad, really. Why would Vanessa be poor for divorcing me? Because you're a high earner, David. Since Vanessa is a housewife, she'll lose her income, right? Hearing Alex's words, David paused momentarily, then burst into laughter. What are you talking about? We're the ones who will be living the poor life. Huh? Alex looked at David and me in complete shock. I chose not to join the conversation. David, holding his stomach, continued laughing and speaking. Didn't I tell you Vanessa is the CEO? I never said I was the one working. You did say that, but I thought it was a joke. Was that true? Why would I lie about that? I was the house husband, and Vanessa was the one working. She's the president of the well-known ABC company. Hearing the company's name, Alex turned to me in disbelief. ABC company? The one that was on the news with annual sales of 150 million, that famous one? You're joking, right? I'm flattered you know of it. Let me reintroduce myself. I'm Vanessa, president of ABC Company. I handed her my business card. Alex took it slowly, still in shock. The business card clearly displayed the company name. Alex's hands trembled slightly. Why? Your mother said David was an elite high earner. How can this be? Hearing this, David was now the one surprised. I listened silently to their conversation, thinking that Alex and my mother-in-law must have been conspiring after all. Mom too, why is she under that impression? I've told you what Vanessa does, haven't I? But your mother keeps saying it's unthinkable for a woman to earn more. She also said a woman should do all the housework, and that failing to fulfill wifely duties is disgraceful, among other things. What? That's ridiculous. Such thinking is outdated. David sighed, clearly frustrated with his mother's views. But I chose you over Vanessa. It's not about the money, it's for love. You understand that, right? While David spoke to Alex with a smile. Alex just stood there, dazed, seemingly unable to follow the conversation. Can we conclude this discussion now? You both agree with what's been settled, right? Yes, this finalizes our procedures. I feel terrible for hurting you, Vanessa. I'll make sure we don't interfere with your life again. Good. Make sure that person there and your mother also get the message to stay out of my affairs. Understood. Then, we'll be going now. David supported a completely deflated Alex as they left the law office. The shock of learning her conquest was actually a homemaker must have been profound. Whether they can build a good relationship going forward is highly questionable. But that's no longer my concern. I felt relieved to be free from this mess and found myself feeling lighter. Then, one day, while I was enjoying my newly single life, my secretary informed me that a woman was causing a scene at the entrance, demanding to see me. She wasn't a business contact, and she insisted on seeing the president. Despite my busy schedule, I instructed my secretary to bring her to the reception room and to stay with me. As expected, Alex was there, looking frantic and out of sorts. I regretted giving her my business card that day. What brings you to my office so suddenly? Don't you realize that causing a scene at the entrance is a nuisance? I don't know your contact details, and when I tried going to your house, the concierge stopped me at the entrance. I couldn't talk to you, so I had to come here. We finished our negotiations the other day, didn't we? I never wanted to see you again. I didn't come here because I wanted to. Alex slammed her hand on the table. My secretary looked displeased, but I gestured for her to stay calm. That's right. I came here to complain to you. Complaint? Yes. You said there was a division of assets, but what about that amount? For the president of a big company like you, aren't you being stingy? Alex ranted, clearly lacking composure. I'm not being stingy. It was a fair amount. Lies. It's true. I doubted she would back down easily. Despite finding it tedious, I decided to explain. First of all, our marriage lasted only 6 months. During that period, we split my income fairly. And from that, compensation was paid to you and David. So it's only natural that the amount you received was less. At the mention of compensation, Alex gasped. She realized why tens of thousands had vanished, the reason tied to the compensation. For her and David. Still. Why can't we live in that high-rise apartment? And the furniture, all of it should be our shared property, right? It's unfair that you get to keep everything. Alex persisted, and I grew weary of dealing with her. I explained calmly, looking away. By the way, I felt uncomfortable when you first came to my house and looked around so freely. If we bought it after getting married, as you said, it would indeed be shared property. What do you mean? That high-rise apartment and the furniture in the house. I bought all of it when I was single. So, everything is mine. There's not even a 1% chance you could live there. Faced with these harsh realities, Alex was visibly shocked. She murmured almost inaudibly. That can't be. I thought if I married David, I'd get the property. The luxurious furniture, everything. Too bad you were deluded. But, you got a kind and skilled homemaker as a husband. Be happy with that. That's exactly the problem. Reinvigorated by my comments, Alex raised her voice. What now? David tells me to work. He says, I'm suited to be a homemaker, so you should go out and earn. I married David thinking I could live easily without working. If one partner takes care of the home, it's only natural for the other to work. Though Alex has her own issues, David can't be blamed for complaining. His ability to be a homemaker was only feasible because he was with someone like me, who wanted to work outside. Someone like me, who loves to work, would find a partner who handles household chores like David very suitable. I've always lived at home and never really worked. Now I'm juggling part-time jobs, but can't secure a stable income because I can't get a full-time job. David doesn't get mad, but he says, with my cooking skills, I can easily whip up cheap meals. So let's save money together as a couple. It's so annoyingly positive. That's true. He can be a bit troublesome. David's positivity is one of his strengths, but his inability to read the room can be irritating at times. He keeps saying things like, even if we live a frugal life, as long as we're together, it's fine. I'm confident I can make simple dishes exciting every day. I thought you'd be the one struggling with a frugal life, and I was happy about it. If I knew it would turn out like this, I would never have married David. I don't need a man like that, take him back. Her frustration probably stems from not being able to live the lavish life she imagined. She's forced into poverty, with a nice but unambitious husband. It's her own fault for being self-centered, and now she's facing the consequences. It's all her fault, yet she needs to blame me to feel better about herself. However, I couldn't care less. I don't care about your feelings. And I don't need a man who's cheated, whatever the reason. Is that all you wanted to say? Then please leave. As I spoke, my secretary didn't wait for Alex's response and quickly called security to escort her out. I could hear her shouting in the hallway, but her voice faded away. I instructed the security to keep her out if they see her again. I sighed deeply, tired of all the drama. Since then, there had been no more visits from Alex, and I was able to work peacefully. One day, as I was leaving the office without having to work late, someone suddenly grabbed my arm. Startled and unable to speak, I cautiously looked to find my mother-in-law glaring at me with anger. There you are. I've been waiting for hours, and you just wouldn't come out. How could you turn away your mother-in-law from your home like that? What kind of person does that? Following Alex, my mother-in-law showed up. I had forgotten there was another troublesome person. Her relentless waiting for me to come out of the office was unsettling. I responded firmly, hiding my discomfort. David and I are divorced now, so we're strangers. There's no reason to let someone who has no relation to me into my home. I've made sure the building management knows only people I approve can enter. The nerve. Respect your elders. She yelled in a shrill voice I had never heard before, which was quite unpleasant to my ears. I would, if there were anything respectful about you. Besides, why are you laying in wait? What do you need? Laying in wait sounds so sinister. I came all this way because I have something important to tell you. I didn't ask for that. I wanted to run away from this place immediately to escape her, fearing she might lay in wait again. I didn't want to meet this woman ever again. But I decided to listen to her to end everything today. Why didn't you tell me honestly that David wasn't working? Because you deceived me, I'm suffering terribly now. I told you many times. I was working while David took care of our home. You called me a liar and ignored it every time. Blaming me for her own misunderstandings was troubling. Then, you should have made sure I understood. I started living with David and his wife thinking I could enjoy a luxurious life. But the house isn't a high-rise apartment, and it's a simple meal every day. I can't stand it. You were after money too. Like Alex, you suffer because you rely on others' money. Shut up. It's all your fault that I'm in this situation now. Pay me a living allowance for life. That's absurd. How could that possibly be justified? Besides, isn't your husband working? Even if David and Alex can't provide, you should be able to manage for now, right? Indeed. My father-in-law was still active. Although he had been on a long-term business trip for many years and rarely returned home. However, there were occasions when I met him a few times a year. And he was always very kind to me. Dealing with my mother-in-law's nagging was troublesome. But tolerable thanks to my father-in-law's kindness. Well, that's... She struggled to respond convincingly. When he came back recently, he found out about Alex's remarriage. And he divorced me. I was kicked out of the house, so I decided to live with David and Alex. It's natural for a father to ask questions when he returns after a long time. And finds his son's wife has changed. My mother-in-law probably bad-mouthed me and made my father-in-law uncomfortable. But even after splitting with him, I thought I could live luxuriously because David was rich. So I asserted myself, and now I can't rely on your father-in-law either. It's truly astonishing. My father-in-law was a compassionate man who treated me kindly. If you reciprocated his feelings, he surely would have helped you. But this situation is your own doing because you disregarded everyone else. I certainly won't help you. My mother-in-law initially seemed a bit subdued, but as I firmly refused to help, her expression filled with anger again. How cruel. Inhuman. To think I have to beg someone like you. Whatever you say. If you continue to cause a scene, I'll call the police. It's a nuisance to have such commotion in front of my company. Hearing the word police, my mother-in-law's face turned pale. She bit her lip in frustration and left without saying anything else. Her shoulders slumped, burdened by despair. Here's what I heard from the lawyer later. Apparently, David, Alex, and my mother-in-law are still living together. David wanted to remain a homemaker, but realizing that he, Alex, and my mother-in-law couldn't earn enough together, he started looking for work. However, having not worked for several months without reasons like rehabilitation or caregiving, David could only find employment at a low-paying company. Eventually, David's salary alone wasn't enough. And Alex and my mother-in-law also had to take up part-time jobs just to scrape by. When David was the sole homemaker, the house was spotlessly clean. And homemade meals were served daily. Now, with everyone busy working, the house is a mess, meals are often pre-made, and arguments have become more frequent. Meanwhile, I was living a comfortable and carefree life. If I wanted a clean house, I could just hire a house cleaning service. And there were plenty of delicious dining options and deliveries available. I'm not averse to cooking, on the contrary, I sometimes find it a pleasant diversion. I was thoroughly enjoying my independent life. As for my work, I recently started a new business deal with the company where my father-in-law works, allowing us to meet again. Vanessa, I'm truly sorry. It's unforgivable what my foolish ex-wife and son have put you through. No amount of apologies can suffice. My father-in-law apologized to me, but he wasn't to blame for the recent events. Please, don't apologize. Although we're no longer family, I'd be happy if we could maintain a good relationship going forward. With that, my father-in-law smiled slightly and thanked me. After all this, I'm quite averse to romance for a while. I've decided to focus fully on my career.